project. Here today to just give you a bit of an overview really of community shares. It can be quite a technical procedure, but hopefully by the end of the day you'll find it quite simple, quite easy, and hopefully something that you would like to do. Next slide please, Karis. So our project is funded by the National Lottery Community Fund, and we're here until March 2023. We're working right across Wales, north, east, south, west, working with all the different communities within Wales, and with the aim of creating a community shares sector that's still quite new, but hopefully making it really resilient, and sharing best practice, setting up networks, ensuring that projects are helping to support each other and learning from each other, and that can all be disseminated right across Wales and the UK even, making sure that the sector is in a good state and growing, which at the moment it's doing really well. Next slide please. Couple of aims of the session, just to run through really quickly, is just to obviously tell you more about community shares, set out what it is, what it means, how it works, understand what support we can offer as a project, and also any other additional support that we can tap into on your behalf, and also to raise an awareness of what it is to do a community share, what makes up a community share, and the different components of that. Next slide please. Okay, so there's only a couple of us in the room, so it's nice and simple. Just a couple of introductions. If you could just tell us who you are, your organisation. If you are, if you're able to think off the top of your head of a word that describes you that begins with the same letter as your name, then even better. And then just a little bit about what motivated you to come along today, just for me to get an idea of in the room who's got, who's heard of community shares, who hasn't, who's done something with community shares, who might have bought a share, whatever it is, let me know. So I'll go first. Obviously, you know who I am. I'm Hannah. I'm Happy Hannah, and obviously motivated today to tell people about community shares and promote the business model, and to obviously pass on some of my enthusiasm for what a great model it is to you guys in the communities of Ceredigion. Can we go to Llynos next, please?
Hi, yes, I'm Llynos. What word can I use? Llynos lliwgar, colourful Llynos. I'm not very colourful today though. And I work for the Stroke Association. So what motivated me to come along today was just to get more of an understanding really with regards to the work that you do, and see if we can link in somewhere, either in the near future or in just in the future. So that's what I'm doing today.
Brilliant, thank you, Llynos. Welcome. Samantha, please.
Hi, I'm Samantha. I work for Haldar in the community, and I basically support the professionals in health and social care to find out what's happening in the community. And this was something that I hadn't heard of until I saw the event, so I've come along to find out more about it.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Samantha. Rachel, please.
Yeah, I'm Rachel. I'm a funding officer for the Ceredigion area with the National Lottery Community Fund. And yeah, we get a few applications coming through now around community shares, so it's just sort of gaining a bit more understanding really. And I missed the session that you delivered with us this morning.
Perfect, good timing though. Okay, and Keris, do you want to have a little go?
Yeah, my name is Keris. Probably go for creative Keris, or I try to be anyway. So yeah, I work for Cavo as a digital communications engagement officer, but I also do help some groups with funding. So I'm here to just kind of learn more about it. So when groups come to us with questions, I'll be better prepared to kind of direct people in the right direction, help them with their applications.
Perfect. And last but not least, Tilleri.
Yeah, I'm Tilleri. I also work for Cavo, and as Keris, I'm here to find out more about community shares. I'm trying to find a word for starting with T. So my word is trying Clary, because I can't think of anything else.
That's a good word. Thank you. Oh, great. So there's a bit of variety in the room in terms of what people know, but mainly on the edge of not knowing a lot, which is, to be honest, most people. It's quite a niche topic, to be honest. Okay, next slide. So, starting off with what are community shares. So community shares is a bit like crowdfunding. You get a lot of people to put in a small bit of money that gets you a big amount at the end. But instead of like a donation that you might see on crowdfunding websites, when you buy that share, you'll actually buy in a piece of ownership. So you are a part owner in whatever it is you're buying, whether it be a service or an asset. It's set up to build stronger, more vibrant communities, more independent communities. Traditionally, you would see it as to do with shops, pubs. There's been an abundance of pubs in Wales at the moment, and in fact, I'm working with one in Dyffryn at the moment, trying to save the last pub in the village or the last shop in the village. Setting that up because there's nothing else around and people feel really passionately and want to save that. And also the idea of owning a pub seems to resonate quite nicely with a lot of people. So it's quite easy to sell a share in that respect. But it can also fund new things. So often you might have a community that's looking at other communities and thinking, well, we would like that. Nobody wants to invest in it, so why don't we do it ourselves? So things that can happen like that tend to be renewable energies. Lots of schemes across Wales, hydro, wind, solar, funded by community share offers, local food growing projects, farms are quite popular at the minute, and quite randomly we've had a couple of broadband projects as well, where the community have decided that actually their broadband is rubbish and they're fed up with it, and they've quite nichely had some knowledge in their community randomly of broadband and have managed to set up their own community broadband schemes as well, which is also a bit of it interesting and a bit different. So it's more about everybody putting in a little bit of money to get to a larger end pot of money, and with that money coming ownership. Next slide, please. So that it basically works by, as I said earlier, a lot of people invest in and buy in a share in that business. The way that it works is that, unlike a private company, when you buy your share, you're not buying power related to your share. It's buying a small section, but everybody gets the same right in terms of voting and in terms of power. So it's one member, one vote. So you're a member, regardless of whether you buy one share and you've spent £20 or whether you've spent £1,000. It's exactly the same voting right. So it's one member, one vote. Very democratic, and with that aim of having a really wide ownership, that community ownership. You can have a return on investments if you so desire from your project. Some decide to pay interest on shares, some decide not to. It totally depends on your sector, on what you're thinking, but you can have a return on that investment. However, that return obviously has to be small. We can't be paying, 20-30% interest on a share. They tend to be something along the lines of 2%, and if you think about it, 2% on a share maybe that cost you £50. It's not life-changing sums of money. You're not going to be investing for that 2%. You're going to be investing to have renewable energy, if you're passionate about that, to have a pub that you can visit, to maybe have better broadband, whatever that wider aspect is normally the reason for that investment. Investments can be whatever the community feel is a price that people would be willing to pay. They can be as little as 50 or even less, but they can be as high as 200, 300, even £1,000. Totally depends on the people you're engaging with. To be honest, we don't work with many communities that have got lots of people with £1,000 to spare. The majority of ours tend to be 50, 100, not really often more than £200 a share. It sets up with a board, so you have a board that runs the organisation, 3 or more people, and they take care of the day-to-day workings, which puts some people's mind at risk because they think that the whole community is deciding every single decision. And that's not the case, because obviously you would never ever get a decision if you've got hundreds of people making decisions of what what shop to use to buy this, or what tea bags to have in the staff room, whatever. You just wouldn't get anywhere. So the board does the day-to-day workings. Members decide on things that affect their investment. So things like, do you pay shares? Do you do another share offer? Do you move into another community? Do you employ some staff? Those big kind of decisions that will actually affect their investment. That's what they vote on, not normal day-to-day running of a business. Next slide, please. Okay, just to give a bit of background, this is UK-wide, but just some stats about the community shares market at present. So it's a really thriving sector, and thankfully, even during COVID, the number of communities undertaking community shares has continued to rise, which is great news. Which is a bit of a surprise as well, because we all think of people having a lot less money in many communities, but it seems like community ownership is actually becoming really important to people, and it's given people a chance to reevaluate what's important to them, and having somewhere to go, somewhere to meet, reducing social isolation, building losing funding from the council seems to be exactly where people are thinking at the moment. It's a very resilient model, and 92% of businesses from those 440 that did it are still trading today, which is great news, which is obviously a much better resilience level than private business and cooperatives as well. We looked at the reasons why people invest into community shares, and it came blindingly obvious that the majority of people, 80%, will invest for those wider and social environmental benefits. Significant number, but smaller at 17%, invest because of the financial returns. And what we find is some people will invest to make some money because you get a better interest rate than perhaps a high street bank, but it's not their only motivation. Normally they might just, if there's a prospect of financial returns, they may invest a bit more, but it's not always their primary motivation. And it's also come through as well that community shares is a great way of match funding and being able to bring in additional funding. If you can show community engagement, community buy-in, community support, which is obviously demonstrated through Community Shares project, there's no better way to show people are engaged with your project than the fact that, you know, hundreds of people have parted with their hard-earned money to support your project, and it can really help to bring in additional funding, or when you go into the banks to get loans, it can really help to show that you've got a great case and you've got real support behind you. Next slide, please. Okay, so I thought it might be useful to give a couple of recent case studies. These are all case studies that have happened within the last year. As I said, I'm working with a pub in Dyffryn at the moment. They're hoping to launch soon, but they're not quite there yet. So hopefully there'll be a nice case study for a pub in Ceredigion in the not too distant future. So this was a pub in Llandwrwg in Gwynedd called Menter Tîn Llan. If you do have 5 minutes spare in your day and you are interested in community shares, go and have a look at their Twitter page, because they really had a really good social media campaign. Obviously, current share offers have to be COVID safe in like their community engagement and in their marketing. So a lot of their marketing and promotion was done via social media. As you can see, they raised, well, it's just over that figure now with the last few bits of investment. They raised just over £460,000 from a village with 300 residents and 2,000 in the closely surrounding villages, which is a tremendous effort, and they managed to get 1,002 investors. Their minimum share was £100, and they were really successful in selling their story and picking out the different parts of the story that were attractive to different people. So what they did was they had a couple of different strategies for their marketing. So one part was obviously rural communities being decimated with services and having nothing else. In their village, they had nothing else. There's no shop, there's no school, there's nothing. So they were really keen to be able to promote this as a place where people could meet. It'd been shut for around 5 years, but COVID and people in lockdown meant that actually people began to really value a place where they could meet once lockdown had ended, once restrictions were lifted. The villagers were like, yeah, we definitely want somewhere to meet. And the pub just gained importance throughout the lockdown. And they were in a position where they were able then to put in an offer with the pub. They were very lucky that they seemed to have a wonderful village, and if you could have placed better community shares people, I'm not sure it would actually be possible, because they had somebody who already knew a little bit about community shares. They had a digital marketing expert in the village. They had people who'd worked for S4C. They had a whole host of people on their committee. They had like one of the most diverse and skilled boards you could meet, which was fantastic for them. And they really sold the idea of the fact that this is more than a pub to this village. They were, as you can see in the picture, they were really successful in getting some celebrities on board to do them little videos. They've had Rhys Evans, they had Shane Williams, they had a couple of ex-football players. Anyone and everyone who knew anyone was rinsed, I think, to go through their networks and their phone lists and Facebook and whatever, and just see who could do what they could do to get some people to do videos. And they really sold it as a community pub. They had little stories of one of the girls in the village was visually impaired and they were going to do braille menus for her. They had people abroad doing videos saying, I might live in Australia, but I'm from North Wales. I'm really passionate that the community needs to stay together. It needs a place to stay. Obviously, in this area, there's a massive problem with second homes. So that was another aspect that they wanted people who were coming into the village to be able to learn Welsh, to speak Welsh, and just to keep the community together. Look after the old people, give the old people somewhere to go, be a coffee shop, have a community hall within it, just be it all singing, all dancing. And in June this year, they did manage to raise, as I said, just over 460,000. They're currently in a bit of a quandary at the minute. Don't know whether to open or not. They need a lot of renovation. Obviously, the building was closed for 5 years, which led to some, it's not in the greatest state. But they don't want to lose that enthusiasm of those 1,000 people. So they're in a quandary of whether to renovate now and maybe lose some enthusiasm, or open for a bit and then renovate at the same time. So that's where they are at the minute. But great pub. If ever in the area, go in and pay a visit. Next slide, please. Okay, the next one, very similar, in a very similar place, is Mentor-y-Plew. This was a community pub that managed to raise their money just before COVID, and they raised £80,000. Since then, they've been able to bring in some additional funding, largely from the WCVA, in the mix of grants and loans, which has enabled them to open. They were able to continue trading where they could when restrictions allowed, and it became really, really important focal part of the village. This community is a really great advocate for community shares, and they're now supporting other groups throughout Wales to open community pubs. He's the guy there in the t-shirt. He's currently supporting the community in Dyffryn with their pub, just about what it's like to run a community pub. What practically does it mean? And that's one of the things we're trying to build, that knowledge for people to share their knowledge and share their learning. And they've also gone on to do another share offer for a chapel in the village. Similarly to the area around Tîn Llan, massive problem with second homes. So they wanted to buy the chapel and keep it for local use. So they've got a little bit where they're going to do an Airbnb, but there's going to be some local housing in there, affordable housing for local people. And that was a really important aspect to them as well, that they want to make sure that local people can continue to stay in the area, that the language can survive. And this was a really important part of their messaging to people. So another really good story. Don't panic, they're not all pubs. And the last one is a shop. It's Etigwydd in Denbigh, and this is a community hub and a zero waste shop. This is a little bit different, and we supported the team here to set up a share offer, basically to show community support was there for the project. So they weren't so much worried about how much money they raised. What they wanted was the community buy-in. They wanted the community to believe in the idea that they had, which was basically to have a building in Denbigh that everybody could use, and that was able to to put on events that were suitable and wanted by the community. So they rented a small shop on Denby High Street and set up a zero waste shop in there as well, with a little cafe. They set their minimum share offer very low at £30, but they were very conscious that the people in the area weren't the most affluent, and that actually £30 for some people was going to be a difficult thing. So they enabled people to pay in instalments as well, to make it as accessible as they possibly could. They set a minimum amount of £5,000, and they obviously reached, they exceeded that with their £7,000. And they've been really successful in using that £7,000 to use it as a jump board onto further fundraising. So they're now, the last count when we spoke to them earlier this month, they had raised £90,000 from bringing in additional small grants. The aim of their share offer was that if you buy into us now, we want to have a building eventually, a big building that's accessible for all the community, for disabled people, for old people, for young people. There's going to be a real community asset and enable us to put on these kind of events. If you come on to us now, that's going to be in a position, we're going to be in a really good position, and in 2 years we're going to be looking to actually buy a building within the town. And they were looking at some old banks and things that had closed, so also breathing life into their high street as well. So a little bit of a different offer, not so much about saving something that was at risk, but building something for the community. People being, fed up with other villages in the area having assets, and then wanting one in Denby and wanting to have a bit of pride in Denby, because some people had felt like that had gone awry a bit. Okay, next slide, please. So as a positive stories, and they're always really great, into a bit more of the nitty gritty. So for a share offer, you need some key documents. You need your rules, which is basically your governing document. In a share offer, they're sometimes called articles for companies, constitutions for charities, but in this one, they're called rules. So it's really important you have your rules ready for people to read, so they can see what it is they're investing in, what the organisation is, and what the rules are of it. Then you need a business plan to show to people that the investment is wise and the investment makes sense, and it's a viable, sustainable business. It's not going to collapse on day 5, or it's not going to be going past year 2. Then you need to share off a document, which is what you give out to the community, which is a tell all about the offer. So it tells you what they're going to do, it tells you the good, but it also tells you the risks. It also tells you, who's involved, whether there's any conflicts of interest. And conflicts of interest are not bad, they've just got to be managed, and it tells you how that will work as well. So giving people a bit of confidence that the people running this show are knowledgeable, are got the decent skills to be able to do it, and it's not just a bunch of people who've got no idea what they're doing. And then they need obviously an application form. People need to be able to know how to buy shares, and they're the 4 key parts for a share offer. Next slide, please. So to do a share offer, the most important part is the community. So it's really important that you have a very diverse and wide community engagement. It's never too early to start community engagement, to bring people along with you. A community share offer is not going to work if it's just 2 of you, or even just you on your own being a social entrepreneur. Not going to happen. You need the community behind you. You need the community to feel as well as if they're involved and they can shape things, they can give their ideas, and it can be what they want, and they've got an influence over that. Once you've worked out whether you think there's the community buy-in and the community engagement, and you think this is doable, then with at least 3 of you, then you register your organisation with the FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority. You're not registering with the Charity Commission, you're not registering with Companies House. It's a completely separate one with the FCA, and it's this registration with the FCA that allows the share offer. If you were a private business, the FCA would make you go through all the due diligence that you'd need, and you'd be looking at about £50,000 to do a share offer. Community share offers are able, because of this registration in a particular model, they're able to sit outside that, so it doesn't cost anything to do a community share offer. But what that does mean is that you sit outside the Finance and Markets Act, which means that if your organisation did fail then people could potentially lose their money, and they'd lose whatever they invested. So it can, it needs to be made apparent to people that don't invest more than you can afford to lose. If you can afford to lose £50 and take a punt, then feel free, do it, it's great. But please don't invest, your whole house if you haven't got that kind of, if you can't allow for that. You also need a business plan to show that you're sustainable, that you've gone through everything, that you're capable of running this business and making it a success. And then, as we said a minute ago, you obviously need the share offer document as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so community engagement, what does that look like? So for community engagement, it's really important that you're talking to all parts of the community. So potentially not just the local people, the people who will be directly affected by this community share offer. So for example, if you think of the pub, it's not just the one street or the one town that's going to be able to be engaged with the community. You're going to be looking further afield to the surrounding villages that might be using it. You're also looking at community of interest, and there's many community of interest. It could be in the event of Teen Clown, one part could be a community of interest of people who want to speak Welsh. Could be that people who've feel an affinity with the loss of rural services. It could be people who like to drink, local beers wherever they go. It could just be someone who's from that town and they've moved away and they really want to put something back into that because, I don't know, their dad or their mother like drinking in the pub, or they have fond memories of when they were younger. There's a whole host of communities, and it's really important to consider all of them and to get your messaging out to as wide an audience as possible, not just the local community, although obviously they're a super important community to take into effect. Also, when you're doing your community engagement, it's really important that you test the market, that you do your market research. Is there support? Is what you're offering to people something that they want, or does that need to be adapted? And your community engagement should really change over time. What people are telling you should mean that your product that you started off with is different when by the end of it, because people are feeding into it, adding things. You're realising that perhaps you thought something was important to people, but actually it's not. And so hopefully that will show that there's support behind you, that your share offer is likely to be a success because people believe in it. You've got a committee of people. And then consult with the community. What is it that they actually want? If you opened a pub, do they actually want it to be a pub, or would they want it to be a coffee shop in the morning? Would they want it to be in the evening a community hall? Would they want to do parties, community events, whatever people want? Taking that on board and using that then to draw up this business plan, to draw up what the function of the business will be. A lot of people will always ask us, how do we know when someone's going to invest? How do we know what they'll part with? How do we know what their share price we can set it as? And the real answer is we don't know. We've got no idea. You know your community, you know the people you're engaging with. We don't. All we can advise on is doing that market research, asking people the questions. Would you be willing to invest? How much would you think to invest? If we were thinking of £50, would you invest? If we were thinking of £100, would you invest? And then get people to take a pledge, to say, sign a document. It doesn't have to, it's not legally binding or anything, but just say, I, whatever, would invest X number of pounds. And then you've got that to take away, that you can then build and see whether you're in a position to be able to buy the building or to set up this service. If you're already looking at, you've got £200,000-300,000 in pledges, then you've got a lot of community support behind you. Chances are if you're looking to raise something similar, that you will be successful. However, if you've got people taking pledges and you've only raised £100 and you've asked about 5,000 people, perhaps your community engagement needs a little bit more work. So it's just a way of kind of gauging support and just being able to do the maths to see if you are close or whether you're far away. Obviously, not everybody who takes a pledge will actually part with their money. That's just human nature, but it gives you a ballpark figure of where you are. Sometimes organisations come to us and they'll say, we're setting this as our minimum, and we're like, oh, that's a bit high. That's a bit iffy, but we've been proven right sometimes but often we've been proven wrong, and people have said, no, got confidence. We've spoken to hundreds of people. This is the minimum. This is what people are seeing as a good minimum amount, and this is going to enable us to get this amount, which is what we need, and that's worked. So it's all about what your market tells you. We worked recently with a pub in Newport in South Wales, and they set their minimum as 350, which we thought, oh, that's a bit high. But it worked. They'd done all that community engagement. They'd consulted with the community. They'd asked enough people what they were willing to pay, and they did a really successful share offer on a pub, and £350 was their lowest price. In terms of community engagement, it's really important as well to build on your momentum and take that community support into the share offer when it's launched, and make sure that you've got all that momentum from the start. They'll always tell you that the first third of the money that you want to raise is the hardest, because nobody really wants to invest in the beginning, because it's, you know, if you see one of those fundraising thermometer things, if it's not moving, you're thinking, oh, I'm going to hold off. I don't really want to invest in it. It doesn't look like it's going to be successful. Be a waste of time investing in that. Whereas if you have all of a sudden this push, and all of a sudden within 1 week you've raised X amount of money, then you've got people going, oh, actually this might work. Oh God, this might actually be successful. Oh, I want to be a part of that. It kind of breeds those ripple effects. And if you've got pledges, that puts you in a really good position that you can do that. You can tell people when you'd like, or suggest times when you'd like people to invest, so you can make sure you get a decent amount in the start. And the pattern of community shares is that, you know, it starts off slow, it then goes really slow, and then it goes mental at the end, as everybody has that last rush. Everybody loves a deadline, and everyone wants to be a part of it. So if you're savvy, you get people to invest in the beginning to show that interest is there. Then when there's this lull where everybody's kind of, oh yeah, life's going on in the background, there's that share offer in the back of your head, but you're not imminently, urgently trying to invest in it. It just shows that it keeps going up, and that support's not waning and bringing you closer. And then you get that drive. Come on, if we can get to this level, there's going to be, you know, chance of a success. If you're going to be here, and it's really good to try and get people to just put their money in rather than holding it back. But, you know, people being people, they normally say the last, about 2/3 comes in the last week, regardless of when your last week is. Some people will keep a share open for a month, 6 weeks. Some, if they're looking for a lot of money, will keep it open longer. But still, it tends to be the end is the biggest one, the biggest spike in donations. If it's okay, can I answer the questions at the end? I'll go back to the chat, otherwise my brain might just go off on different tangents. But thanks, Samantha, I'll come back to that in just a second. Next slide, please. So marketing a share offer. As I said earlier with Team Clan, it's important that you utilise any and every network that you've possibly got. Anyone who's known anyone, just tell them. Tell everybody to tell everybody, because it's surprising who somebody knows. I was working with a farm recently, and they had an open day, and they had hundreds of people came to this open day, and the next day they had an article in the Guardian, and the person who wrote the article for the Guardian didn't come to the open day, but had bumped into somebody on the train who'd been to the open day, and they had all this wonderful publicity, which is totally, like, you know, totally random and was never planned. So it just goes to show that, you know, you just utilise any network, tell everybody about it. Plan your share offer really well, and the best marketing campaigns are really well planned. We've worked with some organisations, and every day they've had something that will happen. Luckily enough, in the days now of Twitter and Facebook, you don't need to be on there every day. You can schedule posts, and you can spend some time, maybe once or twice a week, just putting a load of posts on there and scheduling when they're going to come, looking at when most people follow you, when most people might go on whatever you're on your sites. But put someone's name to all the activities that are going to happen, because if you just say, yeah, these are going to happen, then sometimes they won't, especially because people running these committees tend to be already busy people. But as soon as it's got your name attached to it, kind of gives you that thing, right, I've got to do it, that's my job. And really sell the personal stories of your community. If you've got a community that's, you know, happy online, then maybe they could either write down or do a little video of why they invested, because their reason for investing, you can guarantee that somebody else will have a similar mindset, and maybe that person hadn't actually thought about investing, but you've just sparked an interest in them. So it could be, as we said earlier, the language. It could be because they came from the town, and you just don't know who's on their, Facebook friends, on their Twitter pages, but as well as, making sure that you're not leaving people behind who are not on these sites, making sure that, that your marketing campaign and your personal stories are covering local people, people who are digitally excluded, and make sure that it's, accessible to everybody. And make sure that you're using, all kinds of promotion, making sure that, if you need to go door to door, you're going door to door. If you're doing events because COVID lets you, you're running events that, if somebody wants to learn about your organisation, they can. You're making it really easy for them, rather than, saying to people, you've got to go online, and they're like, oh God, my internet's rubbish, or I haven't got a computer, that kind of thing. You want to make it as accessible and a community feel with it from the start. Next slide, please. Okay, so a business model. For a community share to happen, ideally, you would have an organisation that is generating some sort of capital, some sort of income, because somebody is buying a share. And they're withdrawable shares, which means that at some point in time, that person can ask for that share to come back and to withdraw it from the organisation. Now, there is a bit of a caveat on that, in that when you set up a share offer, people have to apply to withdraw their money, and the board can legitimately say no if it would put the organisation in financial jeopardy. But what normally happens is you would say, we're going to have this £50 and we're looking to have it for about 5 years. By year 5, then we will be in a position where we're making a profit, which will enable some shares to be paid back. Because obviously having a share is a bit like having a debt. Although you've got, it's less risk than a debt because you have got these little caveats on it. The repayment of shares is always over a long time, looking at 3 years, 5 years, but we have worked with organisations who've done 10 years. Totally depends on what your business is. And to be honest, you want people to be thinking about this as a long-term investment. If they want to take it out next year, next week, next month, it's not the right type of thing for them. They might as well just donate to you. Be a much easier thing. If you're paying interest, and not all organisations will pay interest, we work with some that do pay 2-3%, but we also work with some that don't pay any at all, and that's fine. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever works for you and your community. But if you're paying interest, make sure in your business plan you're showing that you can afford to pay interest, and at what year you will begin to start paying interest as well. As I said earlier, for a lot of organisations, if a share offer is £30-50 and you've got hundreds of people paying this, to pay interest on that is a massive admin task and a massive admin fee. It may not even be worth you doing it, to be honest. But if you've got some heftier investors or people who invest in more than the minimum, then it may be possible and may be lucrative for you to pay interest just to get that money back. And the community ownership, just to show that it is a really resilient model and does give quite a good competitive advantage. If you think about it, if you've bought a share in it, you're an owner in it. You might also volunteer in it. You're also a customer in it. There's not many businesses where you've got all these different types of interactions with the same business. And obviously, if you own it, you're likely to be using it more. The profit is not the main aim of this organisation, so it's not aiming to make hundreds and hundreds of pounds. Obviously, it needs to be sustainable, but it's not motivated by profit. There's different motivations here, which mean that you're tapping into markets that are different to your normal run-of-the-mill everyday ones. But it's proven, as we said earlier with the stats, 92% still trading after 5 years. A resilient model. Next slide, please. Okay. Following this presentation, everybody can have a copy of this presentation, but I'll also send you a couple of successful share offers documents as well, just so you can have an idea of what one looks like, the feel of it, the kinds of things that they're writing in it. But this document goes out to the community. Now, being honest, nobody in the community will read it from page 1 to page 10. It's just not the way people work. If you sold your story right, that's what motivates people. If somebody's going to benefit from a pub down the bottom of their street and there hasn't been one there for 5 years and they've had to travel 10 miles, they're not going to be really that concerned with a massive share offer document. However, for the committee, for the people involved, it's really important that they do a share offer document, and it's a good standard. It's got to be clear and easy to read because you want people to understand what they're doing. You want them to understand what they're buying into. You want them to understand the risks, and you want them to understand where the business is going. And also, if it's clear and easy to understand, it also needs to be engaging and interesting, so people want to read it and people, are kept enthused and not falling asleep halfway through it or full of jargon that's just not making any sense to them. It's got to be honest and it's got to be transparent, both in terms of finances, but in terms of the people involved, the vision, the aims of the organisation. We always suggest that you give a bit of a biography of the board just to show people who's involved, how they're involved, maybe some of their skills, and that breeds confidence into, these people know what they're doing, they're trusted people in the community. I'm happy with those being involved. That's really good. They've got that experience, going to be successful. And it's got to acknowledge the risks. It has to say that the money is at risk, that people could lose their investments, so please don't invest more than you can afford to lose. It can also offer you the chance to anticipate difficult questions. There's always people in every community who love to ask the difficult questions. If you've got a document that pretty much sets everything out, then it does limit the amount of difficult questions you can actually have, because if you've done a thorough enough job, then you can generally just say, oh, that's on page 2, that's on page 3, and just bounce them back. And it also just gives people that chance that they know what's happening to the business. They know that if in 3 years' time you're going to do this, then gives them an idea of that's the vision they're buying into. It also means that if anything does go wrong or they don't agree with something, it's their contracts pretty much, just to say, well, we said this was what we were doing, we said this is the procedure. If somebody's not happy about not being able to take their money out and having to wait for 5 years, then that's your thing to say, well, we told you that in our document, this is here on page 3, I'm really sorry, but that's what you've signed up to. And in your application form, there's a little tick box to say, I've read the share offer document, whether they have or not, but as long as they've ticked that box, that's up to them. But it just, shows that although there's no way they can get compensation, it just means that everything's set out fairly and transparently. Ideally, you don't want people coming to you with issues saying, this is a lie, this has been bad, this has gone wrong. You want people to be enthused and following it. And we've been really lucky across the sector that, very few businesses have failed, very few businesses have gone. It's been a really, really successful model for communities. Next slide, please. So business planning. Wales Co-op can help with business planning. Whether you're a community, want to be community ownership or not, we've got advisors who work on all different projects who would be happy to help with business planning. We're looking at about 3 to 5 year business plan. And it just gives you that way of selling, the fact that your market, your customers, your business, your finances. You can be confident that this business is going to be a success, it's going to be sustainable. It sets out as well, where you're looking to bring in other finances. Some organisations, community share is just part of the story. Sometimes it can be too risky, or they can be too new, or not enough time to set up other types of fundraising. So this gives you the start for community shares. Sometimes it can be because something is too high risk, because something is too new, that funders are not really interested in it because it's too much of a risk. Nobody's really done it before. We don't know whether it's going to be a success. So community shares can work like that. Sometimes it can just be that, if a pub's up for sale, it can take a long time to set up other things. If you're thinking about grants and things, sometimes they can take months and months and months. You don't have that. Community shares does allow you to move pretty quickly and enable you to do that. But also it allows you, to demonstrate that you've got community support, so that can often bring in additional grants and loans. Gives an idea of when you're likely to be profitable. Therefore, whether you're likely to be able to withdraw shares, whether you're likely to get interest if that's what's made, and also shows your profit, your loss, your cash flow, just to enable you to show where the pinch points are, that you've contemplated everything, you've thought of everything. And one thing that people are not always aware of is that some investments are eligible for tax relief. One type of tax relief is the social investment tax relief, which means that individuals that invest can potentially be eligible to get 30% off their tax bill, 30% of their investment off their tax bill, which is a great coup for some investments. This comes from HMRC, HMRC and HMRC. It's always important to get advanced assurance from them that your offer is eligible for it, but the onus falls on the individual to reclaim it. It doesn't often mean that people will invest because they can get tax relief, but what it often means is that people might invest more because they get tax relief. So they might give you an extra 30% because it's not going to cost them anything, or if they're high earners, they might give you more anyway just to get their tax bill down. But that's something to be aware of, that's potentially available on some share offers. Tends to be not included for anything to do with farming and rent. So where you've got a building and you're just going to rent it out, that's not often eligible for tax relief. However, if it's a small part of what you do, the rent or the farming, then potentially it's eligible. As I say, HMRC are a law amongst themselves, so we always advise to get an answer from them firstly. Next slide, please. So match funding. One of the things that a lot of people are interested in at the moment, which Community Shares fits really nicely with, is the Community Ownership Fund from UK Government, where they are pound for pound matching 50% of the cost, and Community Shares can be used for that. Obviously, that money then can be put towards anything you like with Community Shares. To be honest, it's not restricted as such, so it can give you a really good. It can be really used to utilise lots and lots of different funds. Obviously, there's huge proof, as I said earlier, in terms of community engagement and community buy-in, and lots of organisations, the lottery, WCVA, the Welsh Government, community facilities, they're all very, very familiar with Community Shares and like the idea of Community Shares. It can also help you to get projects over the line sometimes as well. One thing that needs to be said is that to undertake a community share offer, you need to have a particular legal structure, and you need to be a society. A society is slightly different, and it's not, as I said earlier, a charity, it's not a company, and that can sometimes limit funding. As I said, all the big ones tend to do it, but some of the smaller funders or some of the funders who are dealing with legacies and trusts, sometimes you are not eligible. I had a meeting the other day with a lady, and she said that she wasn't able to get Garfield Weston funding because of her legal structure. And a society, you're looking at either a cooperative, which we're all quite familiar with, or a community benefit society. And the majority of people that we work with go for that community benefit society because obviously it does what it says on the tin. It's benefiting the community more than just a desired group of people. It can be quite expensive to set up a society. It's much more expensive, obviously, than a charity, because a charity is free, than a company. But our project can pay for registration, but in case you were interested, lowest cost for registering a society, you're looking at £150. So it's considerably more than other legal structures, but as I said, we can pay for all that, which can help people to set that up. Excuse me, my voice is going. In terms of community shares as well, there community benefit societies as well. There is one aspect that is a charitable community benefit society. And if you do have a community benefit society that has charitable objects, it is possible to set that up as well. What that means is you are still not a charity. Unfortunately, the Charity Commission is not moving at the moment, even though there's been some lobbying on bringing charitable community benefit societies under the Charity Commission. Luckily in Scotland, they've all been brought under one heading. But that means that in the eyes of HMRC and for tax purposes, you are a charity. So you get all the tax benefits of being a charity, which can often be helpful. Next slide, please. And then just to go through a couple of funders who are really supportive of community shares. People at WCVA have actually sent their staff on community share practitioners training, so they've got technical knowledge, really technical knowledge of community shares and understand all aspects of it. The Community Ownership Fund almost feels like it was written for community shares, although there are other ways, you can use grant funding as match funding and different things, but the whole way it's set up about saving businesses, saving community assets, feels as if it fits perfect with community shares. And the architectural heritage, if anybody's interested in doing any heritage projects, doesn't necessarily have to be listed buildings, but if it's just a building of historic architectural importance to a village or a community, then they may be able to help with things like feasibility studies and just, getting some support around community shares. Next slide, please. Okay, so a couple of questions that seem to come up a lot is around the right share price. And as I said earlier, there's never a right answer. It's just what your community is telling you. And if you can get pledges, if you can ask people, that'll give you that idea of whether you're on the right lines of the right share price. You want it to be high enough that it means that you don't get, you've got a good chance of getting your minimum target, but you don't want to be putting people off. Some research that's happened lately has looked at community shares, and it's shown that on average, 2/3 of the money, 2/3 of the members are normally local to a share offer. However, 2/3 of the money comes from outside the local area. So you're able to level up, so to speak, and bring in additional funding from outside to help communities, but at the same time ensuring that the majority of people benefiting from that community is the local people. So it can be a nice way like that. How are payments retained? One thing I should say is, whilst the share offer is open, the money should be put into a bank account or kept somewhere until you reach your minimum target. If your minimum target's not reached, then that money all goes back to the investors. So some people will set up a whole new bank account, but I know at the minute that can be a complete and utter nightmare. Others have got other organisations just to hold the money for them. In the olden days, some would just keep cheques and leave them and then just cash them in once they had enough cheques in. A risk warning, just because there is no comeback for communities to get compensation should the investment go wrong. And just important to be upfront with people from the beginning. And then how do you manage a large group of members? Everybody asks that question, and it's just about making sure that people understand their role as a shareholder, making sure they understand that they're not going to be dealing in the everyday business of the organisation. They are just going to be consulted on certain things. They will be invited to the AGM. They will have voting power at the AGM, and the kind of things they will be voting on will be around things that affect their investment. But also about keeping people engaged. Community engagement, we say it's never too early to start it, but it also doesn't stop. You don't want to be out of touch with your community. You want to make sure that people still feel like they can be a part of it, they're shaping it. So giving people different ways to access information regarding the organisation as well, whether you're doing newsletters, whether you're doing updates, whether you're doing social media, whatever people desire, just to keep them in the loop and keep getting their thoughts and opinions. However, be mindful that if everything's going well, people don't really tend to say too much. They tend a lot if things are going wrong. So sometimes the saying of nothing can be quite powerful, that everything's ticking along quite nicely. And I think that's pretty much it. Any questions? I'll go and have a look at the chat.
Yeah, there was one question in the chat that came through.
Can you use this to buy rent for premises if not able to raise enough capital to purchase? You can, as long as you're upfront in the beginning, and your renting is for long enough to warrant that, then that's fine. Sometimes it'll be people taking over the lease of a building for X number of years, and that's fine. It depends. It can be used on anything. It just, if you are paying rent, it just needs to be, transparent and open to people so they know what they're investing in.
It was the lease sort of thing that I was thinking of, where you've got pubs where they're looking for new leaseholders, and quite often if they're left empty for between 6 and 12 months, that's then grounds for them to be able to sell them, and then they become private houses. So if a community could raise enough money to purchase the lease, and then it would also give them time to build up a business case to prove that they could actually run it as a going concern.
Yeah, and there wouldn't be anything wrong with that. It would just be a case of ensuring that there was support for that idea, and that there was support for, you know, taking over the lease for the short term, with the hope of transforming it into an actual profitable business at the end. Just to say that we worked with a group, a couple of years ago now, and they were trying to set up a pub. An individual had bought the pub as a gesture of goodwill to save it, and then the community were going to lease the building, but they wanted to do a share offer for the renovation, and there was a lot of concern around that kind of idea, because the family who'd bought the pub were seen to be quite wealthy, and they were all a bit nervous of renovating a pub with their money and then having that lease potentially taken away at some point and all their money gone. So just about how you sell it, really, and making sure that people are really understanding of, this is the way we want to play it, this is the way it's going to work. And if it's the whole community taking over that lease, as in, you know, a community benefit society rather than one person, then that's obviously really helpful as well.
And I think it'd be quite helpful for a group to prove that it is a viable concern before they put larger sums of money into the project.
Yeah, it's good to test the whole business model, really, making sure they've got the skills of people to run it, and making sure they've got the backing of the people to be able to use it as a pub, to make sure that it's viable. So yeah, if that's an option, then definitely it would just be a case of selling it, that you're not actually buying the pub at that point. This is just a trial, and if it works well, then we might be doing another share offer in the future to buy it.
Yeah, there are other cases that I've come across with men's sheds, where there are sort of ex-garages and things like that for sale, and as a group they're sort of interested in testing the water, but they don't know how many members they're going to get. So again, this was something else that I was thinking might be something worth signposting.
The only thing with something like a men's shed would be just, you know, if somebody's gonna put money in, it would be, what would be the chances of them getting their money back? Now that's not necessarily a problem in itself, but because they are withdrawable shares, if somebody wanted to withdraw their shares, you'd look in at some sort of income generation. So if they were selling, you know, stuff they were making, or if they were renting the space to other people, then that would be fine. It would just be about ensuring there's some income generation somewhere.
Thank you, that's perfect.
Any other questions? Oh, I think we're only down to you now, Samantha, anyway.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Hannah. That was a really great session.
Okay. I'll send out round some examples, as I said, of share offer documents, and feel free to share the presentation as well. And then if anybody has any further questions or wants to talk technically, we're happy to do that. And if you guys at Carver want to be involved in those conversations, that's fine. Just let me know.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Hannah, and thank you everyone for coming. So yeah, we'll send through some information in the recording after the session. But yeah, I hope everyone has a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Speak soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.